Greetings, children of the screen, your friendly neighborhood nerd scum here once again, and today we're going to take just a couple of minutes to talk about Beastars on Netflix. Now, this is a show that was recommended to me by a lot of people, and, you know, it's not really the kind of thing that I'm usually that into. I'm not really that big a fan of the anime that kind of focus on the high school setting. Luckily, the show has a lot more going on than that, and I'm actually pretty happy that I checked it out. And in the people that recommended the show to me, a lot of people mentioned that the animation was fantastic, which it absolutely is. A lot of people also mentioned that the characters are very well developed and very intriguing, and that is absolutely true. But the number one thing that I heard unanimously from almost everybody was the thing that really sets the show apart from Zootopia, as the show has been referred to as Zootopia for Degenerates, which is a little bit much, but fair comparison in terms of comparing the two. The setup is very, very similar. However, the issue is that people keep stating that the best thing about this show is its universal social commentary. And while there are a lot of the kind of social issues that it touches upon that are very relevant and very prescient all over the world, what I noticed as I'm watching the show, there's one big difference in the social commentary between this and Zootopia, and because of this difference, it means that there is an inherent fallacy at the core of Beastars' social commentary, which I'm not going to say that it invalidates the rest of the social commentary, but it is a little bit troublesome, or troubling. And again, this is talking in terms of universal social commentary. Now, it might very well be a social commentary that's really intended more to say something about Japanese society, which, if that's the case, let me know down in the comments below. But the issue that I'm having when I'm watching the show, and that occurred to me about halfway through, in Zootopia, the idea is that there's this fear all around that the carnivores are inherently vicious and primal and want to eat all of the herbivores. And it turns out to be BS. Like, at the end of the day, there's someone manipulating them, and it turns out they're just people, like everybody else, who society, the way that they have framed them, and then a person who subscribes to the idea that, like, they are, you know, too powerful, or, you know, they need to be taken down a peg, puts a plan in place to, like, basically solidify this view of them. In the show of Beastars, that's true. In Beastars, the carnivores are inherently violent, murderous, ravenous killing machines that basically spend all their time fighting against, you know, their worst nature, or their inherent nature, I should say. And for me, this is an issue because that is like the primary building block on which the whole world building of this show is based on. Like, everything springs out from that. That is the key social, like, concept that everything else is spawned by. And that is very troublesome, because that in of itself, at its core, is a very prejudicial point of view. Because essentially, if this is a universal social commentary, then what that means is that this show is saying, and is correct, that within our world, there are entire groups of people, not just a few people within that group. There are entire groups of people who are inherently at their core violent and vicious and should not be trusted and should be watched and should be feared. And that is kind of like almost a textbook definition of prejudice. And that's not true in our world. Now, obviously, there are definitely subsects of certain cultures or, you know, certain groups of people where there are radicals, for sure. But even within that group of radicals, you can't just make a wide, generalized statement that, like, oh, they're all murderers, you know? And if you do, that, you know, you might want to reassess that thought, okay? So, yeah, I really enjoy the show, but as I'm watching it, I can't help but, you know, feel weird about the fact that everyone's told me about how, like, you know, prescient the social issues of the show are, and how, for a lack of a better term, how, like, you know, woke the show is. But at its core, it spreads a message that some people are just inherently bad, and that within that group, that entire group, whether it be a race or a nationality or anything like that, And because again, it's not just like, oh, like there's this group of like white supremacists or there's this group of terrorists. No, it's an entire people. So in order for the social commentary of this show to be universal, it would mean that that's the way it is in the world. It would mean that there is an entire group of people in our world who inherently are evil, murderous bastards who are not to be trusted. And keeping that in mind as I watched the show, it made it very hard for me to really take much account of the other very valid social issues that the show brings up. And on top of that, whenever I've brought this up to people, they dismiss it out of hand. They just hand wave it away. Like, oh, no, you're thinking too hard about it. But, like, if I'm supposed to watch the show as a prescient universal social commentary, then how am I also expected to sweep away the main contention, like the main sticking point that everything else in the show comes, like, spawns out from and grows from, which is this extremely prejudicial idea that some people are just bad inherently. Not individuals, but the entire race or culture or group that they come from. So yeah, and again, people are just hand-waving it away. And again, if you like the show, that's cool. I actually like the show too. But I can't watch it as a universal social commentary. Again, if this is something that's more inherent to Japanese culture and it's making more of a commentary on a very specific aspect or time period of Japanese culture, let me know down in the comments below, because that would make perfect sense to me. But in the context that the show was framed when it was being, you know, pitched to me, and everybody like, oh dude, you gotta watch the show, it just completely falls apart. It makes it very difficult for me to legitimately take a lot of those other social issues into account when at the very core of the show, its central social theme is inherently flawed and inherently based on something that is so prejudicial. So yeah, anyway guys, I don't really have anything else on this. I don't really have any more, like, complex thoughts on it. The show's only one issue in, and I'm probably going to keep watching the show, because I do enjoy the characters, I do enjoy the animation, I do enjoy the general storytelling. But if you are one of those people who's recommending this show to people on the grounds of the social commentary of the show, this is something that you might want to think about, because not only is it something that affects the show, but if you're telling that to someone who doesn't know you really well, and that's why they're watching the show, is because you recommended it in terms of like a social issue show, that might not give them the best impression of you. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, guys, have you seen the show? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, please leave a like and share it with some friends. And if you're not subscribed, definitely subscribe so you can check out all the dope content I'll have coming out here in the future. And also, guys, make sure and pop over and check out my second channel, The Batman I Believe In. The channel where we talk about anything and everything as long as it pertains to the Caped Crusader. And we have videos on that channel coming out every Monday at midnight. Right on, guys. Thank you very much. Nerd Scum, out.